Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my fiancé? Last night my 35 male fiancé, 38 female, left in the evening to give a friend's son a ride back to his home. She implied she'd be home before 9. She left at around 7:45. 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't home. I texted and she apologized to me, saying that her friend's son was actually in the next town over, maybe 30 minutes away, and she was coming home now. 11:45 rolled around and she still hadn't come home, so I called her to no answer. Texted her to no response. I was getting very upset. 12:30 rolled around and still no response and no answer to my phone calls. I was extremely angry. 1:30 rolled around and my anger had completely transformed into worry. Not answering my calls and texts not read. Around 1:45 I called the police. I have always heard that the first 24 hours of someone being missing is the most important, so I didn't want to delay. I asked them to let me know if there had been any traffic accidents involving her car, and the operator told me that they would put out the word and send some cops to check along the route she would travel. I called all the hospitals in the area to check if she has been checked in, and I waited outside watching the road for her car for 3 hours, partially because I didn't want the kids to hear me on the phone with hospitals, and secondly because I was sick with worry. At 7 a.m. she came home. She apologized for being out and said she had no excuse. She was driving home and felt tired, like she was falling asleep at the wheel, so she pulled over to the side of the road to sleep. When she did that, she found that her brand new phone had stopped working. She says she napped anyway because it was the responsible thing to do and then came home at 7 a.m. to bring the kids to school and get to work on time. I immediately called the police and told them that she had come home safely and gave them the case number and told them to stop searching, which they did. My fiancé brought the kids to school and left for work. I set out to start cleaning. Cleaning distresses me sometimes, and I got a call from a policeman asking where she worked. I told him and asked why, and I was informed that it was their policy to check on the person's wellness after a missing person is found. I asked him to not go by her work but to give her a call instead. He said he couldn't promise. My fiancée is relatively new to her job. A police officer showed up and asked to speak with her. She is now enraged at me for calling the police and sending a cop to her work and making her look bad. She is saying I overreacted and that she wasn't missing and that I was punishing her for doing the responsible thing and not driving while drowsy. She is saying that she is never going to leave the house again except for work because she is afraid I'm going to call the cops on her again. So did I overreact? Should I have waited 2 days like she suggests? Not the a-hole. But you know she's lying, right? I do suspect that the story isn't truthful, but she doesn't really have a history of lying to me, so I've been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. No, her whole story is a big fat lie. She told you she would be home by 9, but somehow was wrong about where the kid lived. Did she not know the town beforehand? Did she just start driving 30 mins and then the kid goes, oh no wait, I actually live in XYZ, not XXX. That part of the story doesn't even make any sense. So she ended up changing the time. Then she got tired and pulled over and napped on the side of the road. You do realize that if police were looking for her on roads where she claimed she would be and she was napping in her car on said road, they would have found her, right? And then her new phone just happened to not be working. Despite the fact that that simply does not happen, and even if it wasn't working properly, she still could have called 911. That's not even mentioning the fact that I don't know a single woman, myself included, who would pull over on the side of the road and sleep in her car with no phone. Am I the a-hole for not watching my niblings during a family emergency? I 31 female am the youngest of 4 siblings. There is a 10-year gap between me and the next youngest sibling. Due to that, I am not and never have been very close to my siblings, even though 3 of us live in the same city. I have always felt like an afterthought and an outsider to them. I am rarely included in family outings. I've asked my siblings about this, and they say that most of the family outings they plan are activities for their kids, and since I've made it very clear to all of them that I am child-free and do not want to babysit, they don't think I would want to do those activities. Yes, I am child-free by choice and have told all of my siblings that I do not want to babysit their kids. I don't like kids and don't want to be responsible for them. My siblings have accepted this and they never ask me to watch their kids. It's caused some arguments at family gatherings when the kids are playing and ask me to play with them and I refuse. My older brother even told his kids in front of me that she doesn't like kids, go play somewhere else. Which pissed me off because it made me the bad guy in front of everyone. Last week my sister-in-law called me in hysterics and told me that her husband, my brother, had an accident at work and was at the hospital. She said she was on her way there but needed someone to watch their kids after they got done with school. She asked if I could just go to their house to watch them because she doesn't know any details of what's going on and doesn't know how long she will be at the hospital. I told her flat out no. I learned long ago that no is a complete sentence in these situations and that I don't need to justify my reasons. She tried to plead with me, but I just kept saying no. Eventually, she started screaming at me so I hung up. Later that night I got a call from my mom and she immediately started yelling at me too. She said that Sil had to leave my brother alone at the hospital to go figure out a plan for the kids. I asked her how my brother was doing and she actually told me, he'll be okay, not that you care anything about your family anyway. Now my entire family is completely ignoring me. They aren't answering calls or texts. I have a suspicion that I have been either removed from the family text chain or they started a new one without including me. I feel bad about what happened to my brother and want him to be okay. But I also don't feel like I should have even been asked to watch the kids after it's been made very clear to me that I am not a valued member of this family. I also feel like I am being punished by everyone for being child-free and not wanting to babysit for anyone. Everything in my family revolves around my niblings now and I feel completely excluded. I don't think I was wrong for sticking to my stance of no babysitting. But some friends have told me that I should have sucked it up this time because it was an emergency, even though my brother is fine. Am I the a-hole for not telling my daughter that we bought her brother a laptop? My kids, female 14, male 17, have been insisting that I buy a laptop for them. They both have tablets that they use for school, but they complained that they need a laptop. I could only afford one laptop and knowing my kids, they will fight over it every day if I make them share, so I had to give it to one of them and I knew that my son needs it a lot more than my daughter, so I bought one for him and to avoid drama, I told him to just use it in his room and not to let his sister see it. It was fine for a few days, but then my daughter started to get suspicious about why my son spends all his time in his room, so yesterday she ran to his room and opened the door without knocking and caught him using his laptop. She literally threw a tantrum, like crying and screaming at us, until I sent her to her room. She called her grandparents and told them about it, and while they are on our side, they say we are assholes for keeping it a secret, so am I the a-hole? You the a-hole? Of course your daughter found out. And of course she's upset her parent went behind her back and got an expensive gift for her brother and then lied by omission about it. Guess what you taught her? That her needs don't matter compared to her brother, you lie to her so she can't trust you and she can't trust her brother either. Adults would have sat down and had a conversation or worked out a schedule for them to share. Too bad if it's harder for you. Grow up. My son is always using it, either for school or games. I can't think of any schedule that would work for us. We lied to her because we knew she would have such an extreme reaction. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancée it is partly her fault that my family is fighting and calling what she did gossiping? My fiancée and I are currently planning a wedding and dealing with all of the stress that comes with that. When she went wedding dress shopping, she decided to invite my mom as an olive branch as they have never had an easy relationship. My mom decided to try on wedding dresses during my fiancé's appointment for her own wedding, not one of those mills wearing white things, and my fiancé was understandably furious. When she told me I tore my mom a new asshole. I told her if she pulled any more shit like that she would be uninvited. I told my fiancé who was very happy with how I handled it, so I thought we could move on. Then my cousin, who we are not close with and who is kind of a mean girl, asked my fiancé what the fight was about because she had heard my mother's fiancé saying he is done with us. My fiancé told her, so she told her mom, who told everyone. Now the entire family is attacking us, calling us mentally ill, saying my fiancé is a narcissist for thinking my mom couldn't try anything on at the boutique, my grandparents are threatening not to come. It is a mess. I recently sat down with my fiancé to talk about how to move forward. She said my family is crazy and I agreed, but I asked why she told my cousin. She seemed taken aback and said she only told her the truth. I said she knows my cousin gossips and I don't understand why she would tell her anything and I feel she is partly responsible, which hurt me as I thought I had done a great job handling my mom. My fiancé was clearly hurt and said it wasn't her fault at all and she won't be blamed. She said she has the right to share the truth with anyone and I shouldn't shame her. Edit to clarify one thing. I don't get why she even answered as we are no contact with my cousin. My cousin has refused to speak to us over a year because she was afraid if she did, Daddy might cut off her cash flow.